Hey everyone, this is Chris Duffy, Commercial Real Estate Advisor. In today's video, I want to talk about making an offer, specifically using an LOI or letter of intent. So for those of you who don't already know, an LOI or letter of intent is usually put forward by a buyer who wants to make an offer on a piece of commercial real estate or investment real estate, but they don't put forward a full-blown PSA, purchase and sale agreement or contract. It's kind of like an offer that outlines the bones of the deal, so to speak. They're typically short, maybe 1 to 2 pages. Again, they're not like a full-blown purchase and sale agreement, and they're typically non-legally binding. I think there may be a couple of states where they are binding or certain transactions. Check with an attorney on that. But by and large, an LOI is not legally binding. It's just like, hey, here's my offer, and here's what I'm thinking in the terms of the deal. So I'm gonna go through about 10 to 12 different things that your LOI or your offer should have when you're making an offer on a piece of real estate. First, an obvious thing that you should have on there is the subject property that you're making the offer on. So an address is good. It's always good to also have maybe the parcel ID number. Property description's okay too, but anything that just outlines the actual property that you're making the offer on. Next up should be the buyer who's buying the property. Could be you. If you're a broker, for example, maybe you're putting the LOI together for a client. You should still have that client listed on there. Third, the seller, seller's entity or their personal name if they don't hold it in an entity. The price, what are you offering? Purchase price. The earnest money deposit. 1% is pretty standard for most properties, but it could be more, it could be less. Just make sure you put in the offer how much you're willing to offer for escrow. Financing. So how are you planning to finance the property? If you're going to the bank, put that in there. If you're offering cash, which most people don't know this, but a cash offer could still mean that you're going to get a lender. It just means that the deal is not contingent on the financing. Or if you're asking for seller financing, make sure you put that in the LOI as well and the terms of it. So if you're offering 20% down and you want them to hold the note for 10 years at a 5% interest rate, let's say, put that in the LOI. Due diligence or inspection period. So in commercial real estate, the inspection or due diligence period is typically considerably longer than with a residential deal. Sometimes it can be very, very short. I would say on average, it's usually anywhere between 30 to 60 days. So make sure you put in your offer how long you want your due diligence period to be. On top of that, make sure you put in there if you want to write in some kind of extension too. So for example, you get a 30-day due diligence period, but then you have the option to get another 15 days for an additional $5,000 in escrow money, just for example. Closing. So put in there at or about when the closing will be. Typically, it makes more sense to just do a certain number of days after when the due diligence or inspection period ends versus a true hard date. So typically what I'll see is 30-day due diligence period, let's say, and then 30 days to close after that. Closing costs. I actually don't see this in every LOI, but I think it's a good thing to put in there. So there's obviously going to be closing costs associated with getting the transaction done. So that can be kind of a catch-all for anything that's related to title, attorney, survey, financing, all that kind of stuff. Sometimes it's good to spell that out in the LOI versus in the purchase and sale agreement, just to kind of get that done up front so everybody's on the same page about who's going to pay for what. Commissions. So if there's a broker or an agent involved in the deal and they're supposed to be getting a commission, that should go in the LOI and kind of stipulating as well who's going to pay for it, buyer or seller. Contingencies. So this is where a buyer would write in that they will perform on closing, purchasing this property, contingent upon X, Y, and Z. So that could be contingent upon obtaining financing. That could be contingent upon getting a certain type of zoning if you're changing use of the property, right? I don't see this in every LOI, but I do think it's something beneficial to put in there, especially if it's related to financing. I do get offers sometimes. I'll say, well, contingent on getting financing approved up until the day of closing. So essentially what that means is a buyer could back out of the deal, get their escrow money back all the way up until the day before closing if the bank decides they don't want to loan on the property anymore. So that should kind of be spelled out up front just so there's no surprises. And then a couple of other optional things you could kind of include with your LOI, maybe separately or put it in the LOI, but I do see some buyers put in there like a schedule of the real estate that they own or a company profile. And that's not entirely necessary, but sometimes it will help go over better with a broker or a seller, just knowing, hey, the person who's making the offer wants to buy this thing is a credible individual or group. And so the main reason for putting an LOI together is because in commercial real estate, usually the PSA, the contract period, is considerably longer and involves attorneys. So an LOI is a really good little test, so to speak, so that you know that there's even a deal on the table and that both parties agree to essentially the bones, the structure of the deal. That doesn't mean that things can't arise during the contract negotiating period, but an LOI, again, is just a really good way to say, hey, here's what I'm willing to purchase the property at these terms, at this timeline. Is that somewhere in the wheelhouse, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, of what you would be willing to agree to? And if they agree to it, then great. That's when everybody can sign the LOI. Again, it's typically not legally binding. And then you move into the contract phase. And the contract phase is where you actually put together a formal, legally binding contract. And by and large in commercial real estate, it involves attorneys, and they're kicking the PSA back and forth. That can sometimes take weeks. I've seen it take longer than a month before. And obviously that costs money. So that's why people like to put LOIs together, because it's essentially free and it's not legally binding. And so that's just high level, the points that I think you should be putting in a letter of intent. And so hopefully you found that helpful. And if you've got any questions or you want to get in touch, if I can help you with anything, especially in the commercial real estate space, specifically mobile home parks and RV parks, please feel free to get in touch at any of my links down below, and I'll see you on the next one.